Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Yankees Farm Report. We have a special guest for you guys today. We have Xavier Rivas. Xavier, thank you for coming on.
Of course.
Did want to congratulate you on successful seasons, and I definitely appreciate you giving me some of your time today.
Yeah, no problem.
First and foremost, I just want to thank all the channel members for the contributions to the channel. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate all of you guys. To all the subscribers, thanks for the engagement. That's content, likes, shares, and comments. And if this is your first time watching, please hit that subscribe button. So getting right into it, Xavier, how did you start in baseball? Because I did read that you were a three-sport athlete in high school.
Yeah, baseball started pretty early on, probably, 4 years old or whatever it was in Little League. And parents put me in just about every sport and let me try it all, soccer, baseball, basketball, football, wrestling. And then once it got serious in high school, it dropped down to baseball, football, and wrestling. Football, not as much. Baseball, wrestling was really the top two. I played football my senior year to kind of just have fun with some of my guys. And I'm glad I did it because I ended up not getting that baseball season because of COVID, but I got that senior football season, so that was kind of cool. But baseball was always the number one. I figured one out pretty early. It was my biggest interest. It was what I was best at. But I always loved every other sport, and wrestling is another one I really do miss, and that was something that I think is still helping me right now. Is my background there. But yeah, went into high school, baseball started getting more serious. And then around my junior year is when I was like, okay, I really want to play college baseball. And that's when we started looking around. And through some connections, I really didn't have, I mean, I had D2 NAIA, D3 offers, no D1s. Was begging some D1 coaches to let me come on. They wouldn't. I don't blame them. I threw 80 miles an hour, but I could get some guys out, I swear.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, and then went to the University of Indianapolis, and they blessed me with a great opportunity there. And my freshman year, I didn't make the travel roster the first few weekends. Was pretty disappointed, and then just kept the head down and finally got an opportunity on a Sunday. Our Sunday guy had been roughed up a few weeks in a row. I came in and I think that first one was like a good 4 or 5 inning outing shutout, and we ended up winning the game. And then I became our Sunday starter. And from there, I finished the rest of the year on Sundays. And then towards the end of the year, I was about 82, 84 that whole year. And then in the conference tournament, elimination game, I just had an out of body experience. And I had never even hit 86, and I sat 86 to 88. And that was kind of a pretty big jump for me. And it kind of opened my eyes to what I could do. And worked on a lot of velo because that was my biggest weakness at that point, and came back that sophomore year with a little more velo and was the Friday guy. And I had a really good year that year, and was able to go play some summer ball, enter the portal, and get to Ole Miss. And then, it kind of kept going from there. Junior year and everything at Ole Miss.
You had a breakout season that sophomore year. What do you think happened for you to reach that next level?
I think the velo jump was huge. I had a pretty good year freshman year, and I had some ups and downs. But like I said, it was more 82, 84, touching an 85, and kind of had to pitch backwards a lot. And that sophomore year, I was, 88, 92, and was able to really just challenge those hitters. And the strikeouts came, and a lot less runs. And just kind of learned a lot that freshman year. I was on a really old team, and I learned a lot from those guys, and just kind of felt like I learned what it took to dominate that level. And then got after it in that off season and came back ready that sophomore year.
Do you attribute that velo jump to anything in particular, or do you feel like it was just there because your arm strength was gaining?
Yeah, I think there was a few things. We were working on the delivery with some of the pitching coaches I had there. Um, and then weight room. I wasn't big enough, strong enough yet at all. And I think a lot of guys go through that when they come out of high school, and they think they're physically strong, and then you go into a college weight room and you really figure out what grown man strength looks like, and just got way stronger, and then started throwing more. Being from the north, did not throw a lot in the off seasons. So it was, you throw in the summer, you throw a little bit in fall, and then you kind of go play your other sports. And so I think that was the first time that I was really throwing for an entire off season, long tossing we had a bubble or a dome at Indy that I was able to long toss in. And I really just threw hard often. and lifted hard. And that's kind of where I think you see the jumps from like 80 miles an hour to 90. And then once you go on, then it gets a lot harder to gain each mile an hour, and you got to really fine tune the delivery. But that first was just me getting physically strong enough and capable of it, and then throwing more. I just never threw that often, being from the north.
Mm.
Were you always 6'4"? Or I mean, I guess you weren't always 6'4", but like
That's what I was
did
gonna
you
ask.
come fully into that height during college, or were you, 6'4", like going into that
Yeah,
time?
I've been about the same height since I got into college. So
Okay.
I had the frame, I just hadn't filled it out yet. And
Yeah.
I mean, people say the freshman 15. I think I gained the freshman 30 my
Mm.
freshman year. I think I came in just under 200, and I got up to 230 that freshman year, and then turned that into some better weight that might have been a little chubby, but just putting on that mass was huge.
No, absolutely. I totally relate to that. So I guess, obviously you went from Indianapolis to Ole Miss, and that's, they were just coming off their national title
Yeah.
at that time. So, I guess my question, we had Dylan Lewis on the other week, and he was
Yep.
talking to me. He went from D2 at Charlotte to, them making the jump to D1. So could you maybe talk a little bit about, that transfer process and choosing to go to Ole Miss, as well as, that going from playing in that D2 level to playing in SEC baseball, probably the best baseball conference in the league.
Yeah, I joke around like GLVC to SEC was kind of a silly jump. Uh, and I think the Northwoods, I pitched in the Northwoods that summer, and I think that kind of gave me a glimpse of the next level. I was playing with a lot of Division I guys on my team, pitching against a lot of Division I guys, and I got very similar results as I was getting in that D2 season. And so that kind of gave me the confidence that, okay, maybe my stuff does play at the next level, and that's ended up being part of the reason I entered the portal. Uh, and then I got into the fall, and my first couple outings, I remember going up against guys like Jacob Gonzalez and Kemp
Mm.
Alderman at Ole Miss. And I remember my first inter squad, and I didn't know where to throw the ball. I was scared. I was like, what's gonna happen?
Mm.
But then the more you see it, and you see these high level hitters, and you watch them hit batting practice, and you watch them, and they get themselves out a lot. And as a pitcher, you kind of gotta just fully send the mindset that hitters are going to get themselves out, and you just got to make them uncomfortable and fill the zone up. And that was the biggest thing. And Carl Lafferty at Ole Miss helped me out a lot. He goes, "You don't have to do anything different. The guy we recruited is good enough. That's why we recruited you." And so they helped me out a lot there too. And then just getting thrown in the fire that fall and thrown against those hitters, and starting to realize slowly throughout each start, I was like, okay, my stuff plays here just like it did at the other levels.
No,
Um,
I'm sorry to jump in. You made me think of this because I coached for a long time, and I've talked to college players who've had vastly different descriptions of what kind of instruction they got. So where do you feel like you got your best instruction in the different places you played?
Man, I've been blessed with some really good coaches. My freshman year at UND, my coach Hutch, he's now I believe with the Rangers organization. And then my sophomore year, Cornwell, he's now with Michigan. And so I've had some really good coaches. He connected me with a guy, Tom Johnson, out of San Diego, and I'll be going there in December to work with him, and he's been huge. And then getting once I got to Ole Miss, it was more of those guys have played high level baseball. They've been in the SEC for a while, and it wasn't more about making big changes. It was more about knowing strengths and now knowing how to compete at this highest level of college baseball.
Heading into that senior year, you suffered a season-ending injury before the season even began.
Yeah.
What was your mindset at that point? Did you think you would be able to come back and pitch that season?
I knew I was done. That was tough. So my junior year, I was the Friday guy about the second half of the year, and I had a pretty good year. I had good strikeout numbers. ERA was a bit inflated. There's a lot of home runs in the SEC, and so I came back after, went through the draft and had some offers, NIL offers from Ole Miss to go back. And the money was right to go back and try. And I thought I could really go back and dominate and kind of move myself up draft boards for that next draft. And I went in. I had the goal in mind of increasing the velo a little more, and then adding a third pitch, a changeup was going to be the biggest thing for me. And I added the splitter that summer that I'm still throwing now, and it was huge for me. I had ridiculous numbers in that fall, and luckily I had scouts come watch in the fall and the winter inter squads right before the season, and so I did get to show off the new version of me. I didn't get to show it off in the real season, but yeah, that second to last inter squad 2 weeks before the season went out. It was the best I'd ever felt in my life. And I think it was I punched five out through five hitters, and I was facing that second hitter. I had just seen a 94 on the board, and I was ready to put up a number, which was so dumb looking back at it. It was January. I should not have been trying to hit PRs, uh, but I got a little too much into the moment and into really wanting to succeed that year, and maybe revved the engine a little too hot too early, and threw a pitch, knew it was gone, um, walked off the field. I knew it was over.
You knew instantly?
I knew instantly. I've had two injuries in my life, a knee injury in wrestling early on, and an elbow injury then. It's the two times I felt a pop. It was similar. I knew something had just released, and I knew it was the elbow. So I knew I was going to be done, and all I could do was hope that if I rehab, I'll be ready for that next year, and hopefully a team saw enough, and luckily the Yankees thought they did, and I knew I could be ready for that next spring training, and it's like I didn't miss a beat in pro ball. I did miss that college year, but the kind of the new mindset. And I called my agent that night, and he was just like, "Look, um, it's a horrible situation, but the timing works out that you can be ready for next season," and that was the next goal in mind.
Mm.
And would you have had an extra season of college eligibility? You could have, was there like any thought potentially of, like I was looking great in fall ball, maybe I do go back and, have one more college season and show off this new stuff over a full year? Or do you felt maybe that you at least were able to show those scouts, hey, this is the stuff I've got and that should be enough? What was kind of that decision of choosing to sign?
Yeah, that was a draft day decision. Ole Miss is great, and they gave me another offer that was very competitive to go back, and it really came down to which team was going to pick me up. If other teams would have picked me up, there's a good chance I would have went back to school that year. But the Yankees called me, and with everybody I had talked to, Mangrum is the pitching coach at Ole Miss now. I talked to him, and he helped me a lot in that process. And he was with the Guardians for a long time, and so he knows pro ball well. And he kind of navigated me through which organizations to stay away from, which organizations to say yes to when they call. And the Yankees were an absolute yes, and he gave me the green light. He goes, just go do it.
Did you
And
have
so.
did you have any idea like around where you would be drafted?
Both drafts, agents say things and teams say things, and you kind of try to have an idea. But at the end of the day, you come to realize that nobody has an idea until your name's called, unless you're one of the first few rounders.
Hmm.
And so I didn't really know. I know the end of the first 10 is more senior signs, and I had eligibility left, so I knew I probably wasn't going to go there. And with the injury, I probably wasn't going to go first 10. So I knew it was going to be somewhere in the third day, and every pick, every round in the third day is around the same. It's all same slot value. It's kind of just teams messing around. So
Hmm.
I knew I was going to go somewhere then. And actually, there was a tornado that came through the night before. That day, and so we didn't have power, so we were sitting in our house in the hot with an iPad up on a portable charger, seeing the drafts come through. And then the Yankees call, and they're like, "We got you," and I was like, "Sweet," and they're like, "All right, see you in a couple days," and that was it.
Yeah, because I've read a lot of stories about that in regards to your draft position, and a lot of people said, the Yankees got lucky here because he should have won a lot higher than what he went. So, I mean, how did you feel when it was the Yankees?
I was super happy, and it made the decision a lot easier, for whether I was going to go back to school. And I know how well they develop, and now I really know how well.
Mm,
But I had an idea, and I was super grateful, and yeah.
mm. So after your draft, you arrive at the Yankees complex. Just take us through that. When you get there, do the Yankees try to change anything about you, and how was putting on the motion capture the first time?
Yeah, so I had an interesting situation. So I hadn't started my throwing program yet. So I got there. I had been cleared by Dr. Meister before the draft. I just wanted to make sure teams knew I was ready to start my throwing, but I didn't want to start until I got signed, because I wanted any team to put me on their program. I didn't want to start one and then start a new one. So kind of waited, got there, signed, kind of figured everything out, and then we started my throwing program a couple weeks later. And they really didn't try to change anything during the rehab process. I worked with Krem. he's the man. He does all of our rehabs over there, and he helped me a lot. And he really just said, "We want to just get you back healthy to what you were before, and then we can start making changes." They didn't want to be trying to make changes while rehabbing and then get lost. So it was kind of just let's get healthy first, and then we'll go from there. They kind of want to see you perform against pro hitters before they try to change your arsenal and or your delivery. So we kind of just rehabbed it first, and went step by step there. And then throughout the season, when I started getting healthy, we started making some delivery changes and stuff like that.
Just to expand on that a little bit, because I'm sure you talked about it earlier when you were in college working on that splitter. Obviously a lot of guys work on stuff in the winter, come back and they're throwing new pitches. What was it like having this past off season where you weren't really able to make wholesale changes and it really was just getting healthy and coming back with what you had? What was that? How did that experience, feel different to what you had done in the past?
Yeah, it was really tough being patient. Really tough not trying to push the package, and try and hit numbers velo wise when you're not ready yet. Like and I felt really good. My rehab went just so phenomenally. I really didn't have any hiccups, and so really my biggest challenge was I feel really good. Don't mess this up, and just keep going day by day and building bricks. But it was tough because yeah, you do want to change things, and I was kind of stuck spinning, and I'm a tinkerer and a thinker, and I'm playing catch every day and going through the monotonous rehab process of Tommy John, and I'm just wanting to change things, and I'm like, like trying to make all these things, but Krem just kept me in line with just go, let's rehab first, let's get you healthy, and then we can focus on the fun stuff after that.
So who was the first guy you faced live? Do you remember who it was?
Yeah, this is fun. It was George Lombard Jr.
Oh man.
Yeah, yeah, it was on field three. I got up there first one, and I looked over, and it was him, and then I also had Spencer Jones in that one too. It
Well,
was it
let's
was
go.
they threw me
What
the
were the
gauntlet right
results?
away.
Threw him to the wolves.
Yeah, how'd those matchups go, if you don't mind me asking?
They went well. There was a bit of a debacle on whether George went on a splitter or
Oh
not.
my God.
And then he ended up walking. I think I got him on the strike. We'll have to try it again this spring.
Knowing
So
him, I'd say it's a good thing that you came close to getting him. He pretty good eye in that guy. So the fact that it was a close call, you take that as a win, at least on your
Yeah, we'll
first
take
batter
that.
back.
We'll take
so
that.
so you didn't face Aaron Judge at all?
No, I did get to talk to him a lot though, man. He is everything everybody says he is. Just a true professional, and he spoke to me a lot, and he even saw me when he had come back into Tampa when he was dealing with the arm injury during the year. He came back to Tampa real quick, and I remember I was walking in. I had to go take a hydration test because I was cramping like crazy in Tampa. And so I was trying to run, and I saw him in the facility, and he actually stopped me and asked me how my arm was doing and how my rehab was going. I was, wow, dude, you got a lot going on. The fact that you just pulled me aside to ask me how my arm is makes me feel pretty. It was kind of crazy, and but that's the type of guy he is. Like, I mean, he's incredible.
That's cool.
So during your time at Tampa or at the complex, did you get pointers from anybody? Like, I don't know, Andy Pettit might have been there, anybody like that, any of the old guys?
Yeah, I talked to some guys. Actually, one that sticks out to me is I was throwing a bullpen, and it was one of the bullpens during TJ where nothing felt right, and Mark Leiter Jr. had been watching, and he actually pulled me aside and gave me a couple cues that were really helpful, and that was awesome. Um, but for the most part, when I was there, there wasn't a bunch. Then, guys like Volpe, Wells, Judge, those guys come back during the off season, and more just kind of greeted them and got to know them a little bit, but didn't get to talk too much stuff with them.
So as you're heading into the first pro season, were you nervous facing FCL hitters?
Uh, Hard to say. I was really more trying to figure out how to put the ball over the plate before I was worried about the hitters. Early on in TJ, it was really just a battle of me against myself, and
Mhm.
trying to figure out how to compete again. I remember one of the first lives, one of our coaches had some guys on first base taking some leadoffs and some steal breaks. And I was sitting up there. It was like my second or third live, and I first off was trying to find the zone, and then I see a guy bouncing over at first base, and I was like, oh man, I was like, I don't remember any of this. And just like that's the one thing that, a lot of people don't really warn you about is learning the little things again. Holding runners, signs, the pitch clock. That was a huge one going back into that. And the little things like that were the really tough parts. But then I was really just excited to get back into it. And I felt like I had a little bit of nerves at each stop, like first FCL, first low A start, first high A start. I think those are usually like where the biggest nerves come in because new teammates, new coaches, you want to make a good first impression, those kind of things. But I was able to settle in on each of those teams and be comfortable.
I would say you did adjust pretty quickly at the FCL. I think you were the pitcher of the month in May. I want to say, I mean, you completely dominated in your time there. I think it was, I want to say 4 starts there, four, maybe 5 starts, but completely dominant in those 4 starts.
Yeah, I was working with Steve, and he really started getting my delivery going there, and it was a good time, man. Those guys are a blast to play with down at that level, and um, they really want to hit the heater, and I was able to get them off of it with the splitter, which was really the equalizer there.
So
Yeah,
let me just ask you real quick before we pivot to your, I'm sorry.
no, you go.
During your time at the FCL, did you get to work on your Spanish?
I did. I have been trying. My guy Mariano Solomon,
Oh yeah.
I got him, and I would drive him around, and I would try to learn Spanish, have him play some of his songs in my car, and I would play him some of my songs, and
hmm
yeah, I was trying, and I'm gonna keep working on it each year.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Aaron.
All right, so my question is, you kind of briefly touched on it. You're trying to find the zone. I think it's fair to say, probably it wasn't control wasn't like your biggest weapon coming out of the draft. It's a common saying. I think that control is the last thing to come back. So when you're getting back on the mound, you say you're having struggles fighting the zone. Kind of what was that experience of your first few times and did you think you ever really started to find it as the season went on? Can you think of a specific point where you're like, okay, this feels right again? Because I mean, obviously, as the season went on, your numbers were great. So you're just kind of that process of when things started to click more control wise.
Yeah. So in those 4 starts, so there was spring training and extended spring training, those stats kind of disappear. But I threw a good amount of innings there, and that's where I was really battling. Some days were good, some days were bad with the command, and just kind of searching for things. And then in the FCL with working with Steve, and we really started to get my delivery consistent, and I really didn't have many walks there for a while. And then my last start in the FCL had a blow up where I just couldn't throw a strike, of course. Um, and that was kind of the theme for the next couple of months. There would be games where, I punch out the world and don't walk a single guy, and then the next game I don't know where the zone is. And I think it was a mixture of the new elbow. We were trying to make some changes with the delivery. But then in Hudson, that's when things really started to kind of figure themselves out. The delivery was starting to figure itself out, and it just kind of felt natural again. And I could just go out there and compete and not think about a bunch of things. And so I think Hudson was kind of that final step of the rehab process of feeling like I'm just back to pitching again.
Is there a focus on game planning at those levels, or is it more just about what we want you to do today? Or here's the number of pitches you want to get to, and this is the mix we want you to have. Is it a little bit of both?
So in the FCL, I didn't do any much game planning. It was really just rehabbing, throw your strengths. We did a little bit like in between innings. We would go over what we were going to do against the next 3 hitters and such. And then low A, we did more. And then high A was the most detailed. And I think that's probably the theme is as you move up and the hitters get better, the game planning becomes a bigger part of the picture. And in the lower levels, it's more of just throw your strengths, develop, get better, challenge the zone. But yeah, going up, I remember there was one hitter I faced in low A, hit a homer off of me. I was confused how he did it because I thought I threw a great pitch. And then I faced him again in high A, and we had a much better game plan against him. He had more at bats. That's kind of just part of it, especially being a left-hander. A lot of times my game plans I have to just go with strengths early on in the year, especially in low A, because those hitters just don't have a lot of data against lefties, so there's not much to go off of. But then as the year got later and we were in high A, I got to face a couple hitters that I had faced in low A, and I was able to create a better game plan and really dominate those guys. And that kind of showed me the difference it can make when you understand guys' weaknesses and you can really attack them and exploit them.
Do they call pitches from the bench, or is that your catcher, or is that you
Catcher.
two working together? Okay.
Yeah, so the pitcher, catcher, and pitching coach and catching coach, we all game plan together before the start. But then once we're in there, it's mostly just pitcher, catcher. And then, I sit down in between each inning with my pitching coach and we talk about the guys coming up and, the previous at bats and such stuff like that.
Okay.
So if you got to call it audibles, you're doing it from the mound.
Yes.
So you
So
get the
you're,
go ahead.
oh no, you go.
I was gonna say you get the promotion to Tampa. You have a nice debut. You're rolling in June, and then July rolls around. And I mean, I think it's fair to say your last three starts were a bit rough.
Yeah.
What was your thinking at that point? And I say this to a lot of people constantly. I'm like, look, the thing about prospects is there's gonna be valleys and peaks, right? They're gonna sometimes they're gonna be rolling, and sometimes they're gonna hit a wall. The
Mhm.
prospects that you expect them to be, your top 30 or whatever, those guys should be able to figure that out. So what was your mindset at that point when during those final three starts in July, sorry.
Yeah, those were tough. I was battling. The heat was really tough there, and it was tougher to pitch there than I expected. Being from the SEC for 2 years, I thought I had handled the hottest parts of the country. I was completely wrong. Tampa is a whole nother animal. It was nothing like any of the SEC starts I had, and
Mhm.
my last start, I mean, I full body cramped. I had never done that before. I didn't even think it was real until everything on my body was cramping and we were carting me to the ice bath.
Oh
Um,
man.
and so, don't want to use those as big excuses, but that was something I was really battling. I sweat all the time. As you can see, my face is red. I run hot. Uh, and so it was tough to grip the ball. I was really struggling with cramps. And then a lot of it was also just delivery stuff, the ups and downs of TJ. I think it was kind of a mixture of everything came in and just beat me up for a few starts. It was tough. I mean, I'd get home and I'm just like, geez, like this is not going as well as it was. And then I'm sitting in my room one night and I get a phone call from Bossy and Moss, man. They're like, "You're going to Hudson." I was like, well, that didn't make much sense because the last few hadn't been very good. Uh, but I was really excited to get out of that weather, and then I was able to pitch a little bit better.
Um, yeah, man. When you got to Hudson Valley, I myself was surprised. I was like, I thought they would have left him a little bit longer there, so maybe work out on some stuff. And I did ask around, like, well, what's going on with him? And what I was hearing back was like, well, he's working on some stuff. Don't look at those numbers. And I'm like, well, I don't really try to look at those numbers because we already see what the Yankees do in the draft. They don't really care about numbers. They look at the actual player and what they're drafting, and
Mhm.
that's what they're investing in, not the numbers you're putting up.
Yeah, I think that it kind of encapsulates the Yankees process. And, when we're in low A, we want to have results and you want to strike guys out and you don't want to walk people and you want to win games, obviously. Um, but, when you're in low A, the pitching coaches aren't trying to make you the best low A pitcher ever. They're trying to make you a big leaguer. In high A, you're not working towards being a good high A pitcher. You're working towards being an above average big leaguer. And that's always the goal in mind. And so that it kind of helps a lot, when you're struggling like I was in low A for a few weeks and it's like it's all right because I'm making changes that are going to help me not only in low A, but high A, double A, triple A, big leagues. And so kind of you being just a lot more process oriented versus, college, especially the SEC, it was just win, win, win. Results is all that matters. And then going to the minor leagues is a lot different because there's different purposes. And so that was really helpful. And the Yankees do such a good job of creating it where results do matter and they do want good performance on the field while also getting better and working towards being a big leaguer and not just being too hard stuck on having a 300 batting average in low A or having a good ERA in low A.
So if I'm
Yeah,
hearing you right, I mean, pitching at different levels, you're around a lot of different pitching coaches this year and coordinators and Sam Breen. It sounds
Yep.
like the messaging stayed consistent though.
Yes, yes. It was that was something I talked about and it was pretty cool. Like I got here, I worked with Krem. He's the rehab coordinator, so I worked with him for, 6 months and then I worked with Steve and then I worked with Mossman and Loe and then I worked with DK and High and then I also worked with Sam and Brett. So it was, like I worked with six different pitching coaches all in one season, which is pretty awesome. But it's another also part of minor league ball where you also have to learn what is your process, what makes you good, because you're going to have a lot of different information coming you from at you from every way, and so you can't get torn in a bunch of directions too. So you also have to learn in pro ball to understand what makes you good and what works for you and what has gotten you there as well, while also being able to filter in all that information and use it to get better.
Yeah, I think it's, pretty well known that the Yankees are a very analytics friendly organization. First of all, kind of what was your stance, analytics versus kind of, what you're feeling and, or eye test stuff. And when you were with the Yankees, when you're whether you were struggling or whatnot, what are the kind of the things they're showing you if you kind of want to peel back the curtain on, how they're talking about your pitches and the shape and all that, for the listeners.
Yeah. So I've always been a numbers guy. I do enjoy analytics a lot and I support them and I think they're great for the game and they work and that's why the best organizations have the best analytics. But I also believe that there is truth to the old knowledge and the old just being tough and having mentality and those things are so real too. And finding the happy medium is really where you can find success in the game. But with the Yankees, analytics in general, uh, a lot with my pitch shape models, how it plays. We use a lot of models to compare our pitches to big league pitches, and so a lot of it is working towards getting my pitches to above big league average pitches, and then you kind of work from there. And we work from the plate first, and then we go back to the mound, and we kind of work from there. So you start with results. What are the hitters telling you, and then you work from there.
Was there any like of your pitches that like when they compared to MLB, was there someone that was like, oh wow, like my pitch is like that? Is there some a memory of like someone that you got compared to that really shocked you?
Yeah, so they did a lot of pitching comp, like delivery wise. I used a lot of comparisons with Rodon, a lot with Skubal, and then actually with Savage, who's pitching tonight. They've been using him with. I have a similar arm angle and kind of that higher release height that he has and the splitter, and so it is cool to see. You get a video sent and it's you next to Rodon in slow motion. You're like, oh, that's cool. But then yeah, the splitter was the one that the grade really loved. Our stuff model really loved that pitch, and so that was cool to see the number be real cool for me, and know that I have a pitch that the model sees as a lot above big league average, which is really cool.
I mean, that pitch dominated the Yankees and get in that game too. So, if you can return the favor on the Blue Jays, we all love that.
In August, you get the promotion to Hudson Valley, and you were back to dominating once again. You even won the pitcher of the month for August. How are you feeling during that time?
I felt really good. It was just such a good time. We were in a playoff chase. I got really close with those guys, and it was a great group of guys up there. And got really close with DK Quick, the pitching coach there. And me and him really clicked on the delivery. And we just each day throwing felt better and better and better. And like towards the end of the year, even just in case we had won that Sunday game, I threw a bullpen on that Sunday. And I remember in Tampa in July, I'm looking towards the end of the year and I'm like, okay, only 1 month left. I can survive this. And then once I got to Hudson, I was like, man, I want to pitch for another month because the weather was better and the delivery started to really um, come together and just throwing the baseball was really fun again. And that's kind of how I was feeling then. And it was just like go out there and just compete and have fun and try to win games, especially in that playoff race, getting to kind of get a little more results driven and try to win games is always really fun to do.
In going into that final week, I spoke with Dylan Lewis about this, where we spoke about we were 6 games back, and
Yeah.
you guys took it all the way down to the final game. I mean,
Yeah.
what was that experience like? And for you, how was that hunt?
That was that was a blast. That was probably the most fun week of the year. Uh, and we really handled it well. Nobody was stressed. I don't want to speak for anybody, but their dugout seemed a lot really tense. I think we had them pretty scared.
Uh,
Uh, and and man, it was fun. We had late games, we had rain delays, we had some chirping. It was a good old time, man. And being in that locker room with those guys, hanging out with those guys, and getting close with them real quick. And I'm excited to play with a lot of those guys next year. And it was really fun.
Was gonna say, as a guy who played SEC baseball, where there's some juice in the crowd,
Oh yeah.
you went to the FCL playing in front of your coaches to the Florida State where you're playing in front of friends and family, and now you got a little bit of juice back when you come up
Yeah.
north, right?
Yeah, it was feeling a little bit more lively again. You get a little more adrenaline, you get some crowd noise. It was definitely different. I remember rehabbing an extended and being on the backfields of random complexes around the Florida League, and it was just like, geez, this feels like JV baseball again. And so
it's just
yeah,
it's
going
just
from
autograph seekers out there.
yeah, going from 10,000 people to yeah, a couple guys with binders and a couple
Yeah.
scouts. It was definitely different. But
Hmm.
it was really fun, and it kind of was like backyard baseball again, and you're really just playing with the guys in the dugout. So that was a good time, and then it is nice to go back in front of the fans because I mean that's why you play the game. So it was real good, and they packed that place out, especially those last couple weeks. It was a good time.
It's a fun place.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta ask this because this is a big thing for Yankee fans. They're big on velo. They expect everybody to throw like Carlos Lagrange, and that doesn't happen all the time. It's a rare thing. You're topping out at I think what 94. You're topping out at 94, 95.
Yeah.
Would you want to add a few more ticks to that fastball, or you feel like you're good where you're at?
Oh, I would love to. If I could throw 100, I'll throw 100. But realistically,
Mhm.
I would love to be in the mid 90s. I think I could have a lot of success at the highest level, in that 93, 95, 94, 96 range. Is really the goal that I have in mind. And if more comes, more comes. You don't want to put a specific goal on because, whatever happens, happens. But I am attacking some things, and I think there's some definite changes that can add some velo. I think there's a lot of energy leaks in the delivery right now, and we're hammering them out right now. And I'm excited to see what's going to happen next year.
Hey, I'm
What were
optimistic
you
because if
say?
Cam Schlittler what started at 90 when he got to Tampa and now he's at 101.
Yep, that's one of their favorite things to show. Um, Makes us all believe we can throw 100.
I mean, that's a great, you talked about it when when you get drafted, that's a great organization to be a part of. And I think Cam's a shining example to keep you motivated that, hey, if he can do it, why not me, right?
Yeah, 100%. And it was funny before he made his big league run and that playoff run and really got his name out there. I was an extended with some of the guys, and extended can be a tough place to be, especially older guys too that don't want to be in extended. They want to be out with everybody else at affiliates. And I remember one of the presentations that our mental conditioning staff put together, and they're awesome. They put together who had been in extended, and they showed a few different guys' journeys. And Cam Schlittler is who they showed for the pitching example, and he was an extended, and then low A, and they kind of showed his path. And so it's cool to see guys at the highest level played in extended too, and they played in the FCL too, and it just makes it a little easier, instead of feeling like you're behind.
What would you say was
I
your
want to
best?
ask.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, we kind of talked a little bit about Hudson Valley and, obviously having great numbers there. There was an article from, I forgot who it was, but sometime in August with Sam Breen, and he named you and Andrew Landry as two guys, thought were under the radar. And this was right after that 12 strikeout game, which might have been your best start, definitely by that time, if not the whole season. Your next three starts, you shoved almost as good, if not, better. And, what when you're in that 12 start game, watching some of it too, and watching you in the next starts, you have some swagger on that mound. What is that kind of feeling that's going through your when you're seeing I'm back, and you're just no one can touch your stuff. How did that feel again?
Yeah, awesome. It's why we play, and it's why I love pitching because it's the only position where you can dominate that often. Hitters just don't get to. Uh, but it's tough. It's nothing's planned. It's just kind of the way I've always played. I've got pictures of me and 9U screaming off the mound and walking that same walk. And I've kind of always had that, and I always pitch, maybe with a little higher RPMs. But then I was also in Hudson talking with coaches and trying to figure out, what is the perfect amount, and you don't want to go too hot and burn out. And so trying to harness those emotions is big too. But yeah, man, they've always just kind of come out and you make the big pitch and you get the result you want, and it just lets itself out, or else it'll build up and I'll get too crazy. But yeah, I've kind of always done that. It's kind of just been my style since a pretty young age.
So building off of Aaron's question, what does the attention feel like now? I mean, you're on here with us. You're hearing your name mentioned in media. So what's that like now?
It's cool. And this is actually something I was just talking with Barney, mental conditioning. Is handling success. You know, it's really easy to work hard when you have failure, and when you feel like you're not noticed, and you feel like, you're not getting what you deserve, and it's easy to keep that chip on the shoulder and just work and work and work. But when you taste a little bit of success, and the name gets thrown around on the media a little bit more, that's when you really have to double down. But it is awesome, man. And it's nice. You work hard and you see the rewards, and it's nice to know that there is a reward for guys that work, and maybe guys that come from different levels. But it's been really fun, and it's great to talk to guys like you and help share this game.
What do you feel was your favorite game this year, or or your best game this year? Because you had a
I
few of
would,
them. I know against Fort Myers, you dominated 13 strikeouts in that game.
that
Uh,
one, that one.
Aberdeen.
That one was really good.
Mm,
That one stands out because that was the first one
mm,
where I felt back in control. I felt back like my former self, and kind of felt like that unstoppable feeling on the mound again, of feeling like I can throw whatever I want wherever I want. Um, and so I would say that I think it was 13 strikeout game against Fort Myers in Tampa. That was really nice because it had been a lot of ups and downs, and that was a really high one up where it felt like everything was kind of clicking together. So that one stand out.
mm.
Your pitch mix, just before, just to make sure I remember. So it's fastball, sinker, slider, and then I guess you call it a splitter instead of a changeup, right?
Yeah, I tried to
Okay.
call it a changeup for a long time, but I'll just accept that it's a splitter.
Fair. Listen, I'm happy to know because I always just thought changeup, but either way, it's a nasty pitch. I guess, having been back on the mound. Obviously we talked a little about velocity, but is there anything with those pitches that, you're trying to add on to get better at? And then following up on that, are you in the works on any new pitches yet? Is that something you're waiting to do? Do you not want to reveal that secret sauce? I totally understand, but kind of what's been that process now that the season's ended and you can start reflecting?
Yeah. Yeah, so I didn't want to add anything this year. I kind of wanted to just get the three I had back, and feeling confident with those. And like the slider, for example, I threw it a little harder in college. And so that was something that I was trying to do again, just because I knew that had worked in the past. And that's when I talked to Steve, and that was in the FCL. And that's when he introduced me to bat tracking and the data there. And that was actually showing that the slower gyro slider gets a lot more swing and miss. It gives more time for the bat to be out ahead of it. And so little things like that are really cool. And so that helps inform the decision on, okay, maybe I don't need to just throw my slider harder just because I want to throw it harder. Um, but for the most part, with my current arsenal, it's really just commanding it better, putting the fastball where I want it, not wasting as many pitches. The wasted pitch is a huge stat for me. Just having everything competitive in the zone and making pitches work for me. If I miss one big up an arm side, it doesn't really do anything for me. I don't have a big old curveball that's ever going to tunnel off of that. And the splitter, same thing. Getting that thing over the dish and down is huge. And then in terms of adding pitches, so I technically only threw a four seam this year. I know the models pop up as a sinker a lot because I'll get on the inside of it. But that is something that I am working on, and I do want is to have two distinct fastballs next year. And I don't know if I'll do it at all. I don't know. what they think. I was throwing a cutter before surgery, and that was a fun pitch for me. And then it kind of gives the three different fastballs. And kind of what I've seen watching the elite pitching around the big leagues this year and the past few years is it seems like the starting pitchers that have multiple fastballs really dominate. Because hitters really want to hit fastballs, and so you can either A, not throw them a fastball, or you can have two fastballs that are 100, like Tarek Skubal. Uh, but I think having two different fastballs is huge because I'm a guy that throws a lot of fastballs, even though I don't have the huge 100-mile-an-hour fastball. I think I probably threw close to 50% heaters this year, and I've always liked to challenge hitters with that. But I think as I go up the next level, having a four seam and a two seam, or a four seam and a sinker, or even adding a cutter as a third option for the fastball, can really take me to the next level.
And without a change that's fading away from righties, I would think that cutter'd be a valuable pitch for you too.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, definitely.
So was you felt like your changeup was a changeup and then someone said, "Oh, dude, that's a fork ball or a splitter"? Or was it your grip that was making that?
So the grip has always been split. Like I can actually show you it, but it seemed like there was always kind of this bad aura and connotation around splitters. You know, they're bad for the arm or
Right, you're gonna get
whatever.
hurt throwing a splitter. Right.
Yeah, and so I think I just kind of fell into that, and I was just like, no, I want it to be called a changeup. It sounds better and it sounds healthier. But it's a splitter, and I think the big leagues and baseball in general is starting to warm up to the splitter because, man, it gets results, and um, my arm feels great with it, and I think it's all different. I think guys that supinate the ball super well, if they try to throw a real changeup and pronate, I think that will cause injury more than someone like that trying to throw a different type of changeup like a splitter. And so I think it was me just kind of being a little bit on the timid side of wanting to say I have a splitter, but now I'm totally confident in saying I throw it.
Okay, good.
Just too much questions for you. What would a successful 2026 season look like for you?
That's a good question, and I've been trying to work with our mental staff and talk about goals, and it's hard because you don't want to give yourself goals, and I've always been one that kind of likes to set the goals too high, um, and so I don't want to give myself goals like for levels, what levels I want to hit because I think too much of that is out of my control.
Mm,
And so really I want to have better velo. That's probably the number one objective this offseason. And command is going to be the number two. And I think I really just looking more into our internal stats. There's some numbers that I want to attack. But when I was having the success at the end of the year, the numbers that I really like to look at was first pitch strikes and then first two out of three strikes. Because when I get ahead, good things happen. And Sam was showing me in the dugout before one of my last starts, and he showed my numbers when I throw first pitch ball versus first pitch strike. And I don't remember them exactly off the head, but I'm pretty sure the walk percentage was like maybe 8 or 9% higher after just one first pitch ball. And I think my strikeout percentage was double when I threw a first pitch strike. And so just hammering those things that I can control are going to be something that I really look forward to next year. And then also scouting reports as, if I'm able to climb levels and face better and better hitters next year, starting to learn reading swings, scouting reports, kind of the game within the game is something that I'm really excited to dive into.
you guys got anything, or can I
I
ask
just,
the last one?
one question, just
Go
because
ahead.
obviously, we talked to Dylan Lewis the other week. He mentioned that Trey Savage was probably the toughest pitcher he's faced, which, he's pitching in the World Series right now, so that's not a good answer. So, when you think back this year, is there any hitter that you just, who was the toughest hitter you got to face? Or if you can't really think of one, is there, a pitcher that you saw that you're like, wow, that guy is amazing? Like, just who sticks out to you from your opposition?
Yeah, I faced a hitter, I hope I get his name right, Arun Escobar.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah, he's really good for
He
Philadelphia's
he
organization.
I was pitching and he was kind of the guy I was hinting towards earlier. I threw him a 3-2 splitter and he had not seen my splitter yet. It was first at bat of the game and I hadn't thrown it. And I threw it full count and I thought I made a great pitch blown away and he pulled it for a homer. And I had no idea how he did it. Uh, and so a lot of respect to him and he tore it up. I remember I don't us and the staff, we were in the dugout and we're like, what's wrong with this guy? Like he won't get out. And he was super hot. And I remember before the day even ended on Sunday after our last game against him, he got promoted to high A. And then it was cool. I was able to face him again in high A, and I think he even got promoted to double A at the end of the year. So, I think he's a special hitter for sure.
Mm.
And don't answer this if you don't want to, but who's the guy in your organization or say more than one where you're like, oh, this guy's different?
There's a lot. Dylan Lewis. He's different. I saw him in spring training, and since I was injured, a lot of times I would just spend the day, I would do my rehab, and then I'd go out to the field and just watch the games. And there's just at bats going on 3 to 4 fields, and you can watch a lot of cool things. I got to watch Max Fried throw. That was cool. And I was watching Dylan Lewis, and he did not get out in spring training. He was hitting every single ball, felt like 110. And he even joked about it. He peaked a little too early, and then he had kind of a slump to start the year. He was on, I mean, he was untouchable. And then I didn't get to see his defense until Hudson this year. And there was a ball I remember I gave up, and I usually know the fields pretty well, and I know where balls are. And I gave up the contact, and I was like, "That's a double in the gap." And I look over, and he caught it with in stride, and I was like, "That's different too." And so he's just got tools. You see him in the weight room, you see him walk around. He looks different. He's got everything going for him, and I watched him hit some homers and turn on some up and in fastballs in Hudson. That was just some bat speed that just looks different. So I'd say that's a good example of a guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I just have one other one. You don't have to answer this one because this just kind of talks about other people's rehabs, but kind of going full circle because obviously you underwent Tommy John and were kind of on the road to recovery by the time you joined the organization. Your draft mates Thatcher Hurd and Wyatt Parliament
Yep.
went under the knife before spring training started around that time. Did you like maybe have any role in wanting to be kind of a arm around their shoulder and helping them through that process, having just gone it through yourself? Kind of what was that like? Seeing others have be in your position now.
Yeah. Thatcher, I talked to a good amount, and he would have questions. Is this normal? Is this normal? And I would ask, every time I see him, I love to ask those guys how they're doing, because I know what it feels like to be in that situation, and it's nice to know people are thinking about you, care about you, and so yeah, I really did try my best to help those guys out because I know how hard it is, and you can be lost sometimes, or maybe feel some things, and you can be scared to ask. So yes, I think that's one of the best parts about rehab right now is the TJ plague right now. It sucks, and it's probably not going away just the way baseball is right now. Um, but one benefit is that there's a lot of guys rehabbing, and so you get to rehab with guys. And so there was guys that were rehabbing with me, and then there's a constant influx of it happening, unfortunately. But then you're able to share, and everybody that has had to go through it, I've tried my best to give them what I learned from it, just like guys did for me. So yeah, I would say that's a huge part of it is helping guys out that are going through something that you just went through.
I had two questions. Well, I had one final question, but you mentioned something and my ADD went off. Um, you talk about the mental part of the game, and I just wanted to ask, do you guys get any training on, like, let's say, for example, social media? Because we just saw what Cam just went through a couple weeks ago. Do you guys get any training as far as that to try to don't respond to these idiots?
Yeah, I remember when I came in with the draft class, we have a few people that come in and spoke with us, and I know we have somebody within the organization that we can reach out to if we are dealing with somebody, whether it be harassing or blackmail, everything which way you can go. Um, and so they have a bunch of resources for stuff like that, and they try to keep us informed, and then also me personally, like luckily my parents kind of enforce it from a young age that everything you post is there forever. And so I've always been pretty conservative with what I post online, and that's just kind of the way you have to be when you're in more of a spotlight. There's more guardrails. But yeah, the Yankees they're good at teaching us and letting guys know what to do and what not to do, and then if things do happen, they also have resources to help.
Mhm. So, the last question I'm going to ask you is regarding the WBC. Do you have any interest sometime down the road, maybe pitching for US or maybe even Cuba?
I would love to. I would absolutely love to. Yeah.
All right. All right. I want to thank you for coming on again. I want to wish you a very successful and healthy 2026. Thank you for coming on. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
All right, guys. On the way out, if you can hit that like, and if you haven't already done so, hit the subscribe button. You guys have a good night.